Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Hot Fixes and Hot Takes. Joining me on the couch today is none other than Mark Littlefield, VP of Product. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We are always so excited to hear from, different people here at PDQ that offer those different points of view, right? And how they maybe have different relationships with the product versus like the community and the customer and stuff like that. Obviously, you're coming from the product side.
Yeah, working really close with the product, working with our engineers, and working with our customers on a daily basis to make sure we build the right things.
Absolutely. So it is Cybersecurity Month right now. So we've been kind of on a streak of webinars and blog content and stuff, all addressing cybersecurity. And I'm really excited today to talk to you about it because you kind of have a unique aspect or a unique viewpoint of cybersecurity as you're kind of like developing and evolving a product.
Yeah, you always have to think about the balance and exactly how are you going to make sure your product is secure at all times, while also making sure that you're rapidly building features, and it can be a real challenge.
Yeah. So let's dive right into it. Very first question. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Security versus usability. Kind of a tug of war there. It's like, how do you make a product secure, but also ensure it's usable and user friendly?
Yeah. So that is a great question. And when I think about that question, I actually jump into thinking about how authentication works. Right? You think about logging into a product. We've all logged into a product before where you're trying to log in and it's like a million different steps to get in and you're like pulling out your hair trying to get into that product. I sympathize with those people who built those applications, thinking about how can you make it really secure so no one compromises it. It's a real challenge. I think that one of the biggest things you have to do is really understand the risk profile of your product. Yeah. What could your product be abused for? Are threat actors maybe looking at your product? And that is one of the first things you think about is, okay, well, how do I make sure that those people aren't let in? And that can be a real struggle to try to balance that against how do you let the good people into your product and access it?
Sure. It's like you want to make it as easy as you can for the good guys and as hard as possible for the bad guys. And that can be a tough balance right there.
Well, yeah. I mean, how do you know who's a good guy and who's a bad guy, right?
Right.
And so you really have to think about what are those barriers to make sure that you keep those bad actors out of your product and not able to access your product.
For sure. Threat landscapes and threats in general evolve pretty quickly, especially now with things like AI driving it. How does PDQ adapt product strategy to stay ahead of like new vulnerabilities and new attack vectors?
Yeah, this one's also tough. I think AI in particular has represented a real challenge for a lot of organizations as you think about, how does a bad actor stay up to date on what is the latest vulnerabilities that they can exploit. AI makes that so much easier for them to do, right? It gives them a little boost up. One of the things that we've been looking at is actually how to use AI in the opposite direction. How to use AI to proactively identify bad actors before they're able to do something that they're not supposed to do.
As a defensive tool.
Yeah, as a defensive tool, whereas I think they're using it as an offensive tool. I think I think about, I'm on LinkedIn on a regular basis, and I think about the current hiring situation that a lot of people are in, where you have an AI that's making the resume and submitting the ideal resume, and then you have an AI that the recruiter's using to combat that. That is a really great example of how attackers are trying to use AI today, and how organizations like us are trying to use AI to counter that.
Good point. Very good point. It is a two-way street, as it often is with AI. You've got, again, your attackers that are like, hey, what can I do with this? How can this level me up? And then on our side, on the offensive side, it's how can we use it to level up our own defenses and cybersecurity posture?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different things you can do with AI today to really get a good security posture as on the defensive side.
Yeah. So walk us through the types of testing and validation you prioritize during development. Like, how do you make sure security isn't just a bolted on feature at the end, but it's something that is just built into the product from the get-go?
Yeah. So there's a handful of different things that we do. And one of the things you learn about security is to not share all of the secret sauce. So I'm not going to explain everything that we do.
Sorry, everybody.
There are a couple things that we're really diligent about. The first thing that we will often do, especially with a larger feature, is we'll write out a project requirement document or depending on or a tech spec basically, and that gives multiple engineers the opportunity to look at that project before we start working on it and to say, hey, that doesn't seem like a very secure way of doing that. The other thing that we do is we have some just general security best practices that we put in place for all of our code to make sure that what we code is coded safely. In addition to that, we have other practices, like, for example, no one's committing straight to production without doing security audits and checks to make sure that we're looking at it and saying, are we putting code in that's safe? And are we making sure that the code we are releasing is also safe?
Yeah.
And is hard to exploit. After all of that, and those are just kind of like those standards. After all of that, we also do, depending on the feature that we're releasing, we'll do security tests on those features as well. So we've actually sometimes hired out external groups to come in and actually look and say, hey, how could we exploit this?
Yeah.
And we use that before we release to production.
Almost like pen testing your own product, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really is, just to make sure. It's hard. Like, you kind of drink your own Kool-Aid, like you're in the code and you're thinking about the code.
Yeah.
It's great to have an external group come in and say, well, did you think about this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's important. You get, the more eyes you get on there, just the more feedback you get on, like, hey, I've seen creative use cases that someone took advantage of something like this to do X, Y, and Z, right? And the more, people you can get looking at any particular feature or, module or something that you're putting out there, the more secure it'll be when it's released.
Yeah, and then beyond just the initial release, we also pay external groups to do checks, actually.
Yeah.
So I look at a lot of the trial signups that we get for our products, and I actually look at a lot of them because I'm a very curious person about who's interacting and signing up for our product. And we see a lot of security researchers that we pay for that come and they actually actively look for vulnerabilities in our products.
Poke and prod.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's great. PDQ Connect is built for modern distributed IT environments. It's a cloud-based product with an agent. It's meant to be able to traverse the web and connect to remote devices and endpoints. How does cybersecurity not just support, but actually drive that design and feature set?
Yeah, so it's a real challenge, right? We're going over the open internet.
Yeah.
So we're exchanging all this different data through the internet. And for a lot of organizations, it's like, well, actually, I'm used to an on-prem environment, right? Maybe you're a deploying inventory customer of ours and your data has never left the network. It can be really overwhelming and frankly, a little scary.
And kind of back in the day, it was just like VPN. That's the solution, right?
Right, and that was the only choice you have.
Yeah.
I think one of the very first things that we did as we built PDQ Connect is we were thinking really hard about how do we keep your data as secure as possible. Encryption is a major component to that, is making sure that like everything that goes through the internet is encrypted. And that's like one of the very first steps. We also make sure that we treat those keys in a very sacred manner. There's other things that we do though as well. For example, our engineers don't just have access to the database to go and just do whatever. So if one of our engineers got compromised, which has never happened, but
right.
we don't want that to happen.
Plan for it.
Yeah, it's not. But yeah, you prep for it, right? And so if that were to ever happen, we have all the security controls in place to make sure that they can't do harm.
For sure. What role does the customer feedback play in shaping those security priorities?
Yeah, the customer feedback and the security priorities is actually one of the big driving factors. Again, especially for products like Connect that are web-based. And we've heard from a lot of customers, hey, I want to make sure it's hosted in a certain environment. Hey, we really care about SOC 2 and all these different things. We take all that very seriously, and we want to make sure that our products are compliant to the expectations of our customers. And so, we don't do things like security audits for fun. That's not like
You don't?
Not really. No, it's not like a high on our list of enjoyment.
Yeah.
We do it because our customers say, "Hey, we need an audit done, and we need evidence that you're up to the expectations of our standards." And so we react to that. And so we really do want customers to tell us, "Hey, I only want to have single sign-on as an option for my accounts." We acted on that. Hey, we really don't like having users with passwords, right? Passwords are kind of falling out of the norm when it comes to security. We acted on that. We want to hear from customers around what are the things you want to see when it comes to security for accessing and using our products.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
Yeah. And they're going to have different compliance frameworks that they have to adhere to and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that your product can obviously support as many of those customers as possible, right? It supports as many of those different frameworks as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And there are an endless number of frameworks. And so if
growing daily,
it really does.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But we want to know about those. And so we interact with our customers on a regular basis. If you have a security concern or a framework that you want us to use, we want to know so that we can put it in place.
Yeah. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for that perspective, kind of like, again, from that product viewpoint of what cybersecurity looks like, because whether you're a sysadmin, a help desk person, a SOC analyst, or a VP of product, your perspective of cybersecurity, how it impacts your role and how it impacts what you do totally changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Security really, when it comes down to it, I know it's such a cliche thing to say, is really the responsibility of everybody in your entire organization.
Everybody. Make sure you don't miss your trainings that come through on your emails, right?
Yes.
Make sure you're watching those videos.
You got to love those videos. Yeah, do your security trainings.
Yeah, exactly. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, everybody. Until next time, take care, everyone.